I have always had an incredibly interesting relationship with things. A little bit of a fun fact, but I actually held on to one particular leopard print top that I was wearing when I met my first ever serious boyfriend until I was maybe 26. And for some context, we met when I was 17 and dated for around 2 years. I kept that blouse for 6 years for sentimental reasons. And that blouse is long gone, but I still remember the shape, the cut, the way it sat, and for any of my Australian millennials, it was actually from Supre. Who remembers Supre before their rebrand? Things, specifically fashion-related things, clothes, shoes, bags, jewellery, have always held somewhat of a sacred feeling place in my life. And as a lot of you may know, that's where this channel really kind of started. In today's video, I wanted to talk about decluttering, not for the sake of minimalism or for the sake of aesthetics or to follow a trend. This is about something that I've been grappling with for, I think, years at this point, and that is our relationship with our possessions and honestly with ourselves. If you've been following my journey, you know that I've talked extensively about my unhealthy shopping tendencies, my shopping addiction, about the psychology behind why we buy things, about how consumer culture shapes our identity. And I came to realize recently that my closet declutters became the physical manifestation of everything that I've been learning about myself. And they tend to coincide with some type of personal evolution or change in myself and my life. And a few months ago, I decided to embark on yet another closet clear out. And truthfully, I think it's correlated to my shift in content and shedding layers. I started to question everything. Not necessarily in like a crisis way, although maybe kind of, but I think it was more in a clarity way. Also, I think what I'm still grappling with is how my relationship with fashion and style has changed from my 20s to my 30s. Let me know if you have an experience or what your thoughts are about this. I don't know if it changes significantly with every decade you reach, but I'm still coming to terms with how much of my old style and my old clothes that I used to genuinely love no longer feel like me. I was standing in my closet a few months ago, staring at my clothes, and I felt this overwhelming sense of heaviness. Just so many pieces of clothes were carrying some kind of story, some version of myself that I thought I needed to be or that I thought was me, but really wasn't. And it just led me to feel more overwhelmed and even more confused. There were blazers that I bought when I thought I needed to look more professional. And because everyone, including myself, has probably said a blazer is a staple. But you know what? I've kind of come to this feeling now that I don't know if I like blazers. Like this one, for instance, it's this green blazer. I don't know if I even want to keep this. Blazers have never really felt like me, and I just feel like I'm wearing a costume. And I'm only just kind of coming to realize this now. Again, I think they look amazing on other people, but when it comes to myself, I just don't know. I have party dresses, cocktail dresses from my 20s that I kept thinking I'd wear again. I have these expensive designer pieces that I bought because I thought that they would make me feel successful. And I only just recently realized that my closet feels a bit like a museum of all my past selves and even some of my future fantasies of what I thought that I would be or what I thought I had to be. And I was looking around in my closet and I couldn't see much of present me. The last couple of months, I've become a little bit more ruthless, not in a harsh way, but in more of an honest way. And I'm not done yet. I have a long way to go. Okay, I'm talking most likely countless drives to Goodwill and hopefully the post office to send off items, and many negotiations on different selling platforms that will take place over the next few years. And as much as I hate it with every fiber of my being, I better get used to it because it's going to be the background noise in my life, I think, for a little while longer. My guest bedroom looks like a clothing store has exploded. It's really not good. And I used to ask myself the standard questions like, do I like this? And of course I still ask myself that question. But lately I've been finding myself asking, does this reflect who I am? I have boots that I love, like these pair from Burberry. I can't even manage to stand up and walk to the restroom in these boots, okay? I have cocktail dresses that still have their tags on them. I bought this one when I was 25, but I've literally had nowhere to wear this dress, ever. And I had to laugh at some of the things I found, okay? I have these rhinestone Gucci sneakers. I held on to these items because I wanted to hold on to the somewhat fun, somewhat reckless, wild memories of my 20s that are well and truly long gone. I think these pieces were a little bit harder for me to want to let go of because they are more than just clothes, they're memories. They were versions of myself that I was afraid to kind of let go of, which I think is why whenever I do a Goodwill drop or sell something, I always have this little voice telling me not to do it. I just want to talk to you about this because I don't really want to bother anyone in my life because I feel like they just think it's trivial, and it kind of is, but I feel like you might get this. You might understand it. I just dropped off my clothing rack of pieces that I'm trying to get rid of, and I sat with this for weeks, for months, okay? It was a thought out, considered decision. But as I was dropping the bags off, this big part of my brain was screaming, oh my God, no, don't do it. Like, what are you doing? No, we have to go back. Like, even now I'm like, oh, do I go back? Should I drive back and say, no, I'm so sorry, cancel it? I want all these things back. I don't know why I do this. I just, every time. I don't know if it's like the interim and like the limbo of knowing I could go back on the decision. It's just the strangest thing. Can someone tell me from a psychological standpoint? It's very fascinating, isn't it? I do this as well when I go to Goodwill. The entire drive to Goodwill, I'm thinking in my head, or I'm verbalizing, no, if I should do it. No, I don't think it's a good idea. Oh no, but what about that one top? Oh no. And then the entire drive home, by the way, can we go back and get the stuff? Oh, I feel like maybe I made the wrong decision. I feel like, but what about that one top? Weird, illogical ideas that run around in my head. Like, I have a hard time letting things go. But here's what I've discovered as I'm going through this process. Holding onto these clothes and keeping them in my closet to be seen on the daily isn't preserving those memories or those versions of myself. It was actually keeping me stuck and keeping me in this limbo in some ways. I used to hold on to these shoes because, one, I thought if I ever needed a costume, they might come in handy. Spoiler alert, it's literally never happened. But two, because of the memories I had of those shoes. But the more I think about that time in my life, I look back and I remember, yes, how much fun I used to have, those crazy stories, the wild nights with my silly little rhinestone shoes. But now as a 32-year-old woman, I look back on the younger version of myself who was so easily mesmerized by the glamour and also easily lured in by the wrong things. Every time I opened my closet and saw this one specific top that I used to love that doesn't fit me anymore, I feel like I was reminded of some perceived failure, when in actual fact, the top doesn't fit me anymore because I started going to the gym and have built little baby back muscles. And there is no way I'm ever physically going to fit back into that top unless I shrivel away to a weaker version of myself, which I don't really want to do. And the more I think about it, that's not a failure. I also think your 30s do something interesting to your relationship with style. At least they did for me. That, to be honest, I'm still trying to navigate. In my 20s, I think, if I'm being honest, I dressed for other people's approval more. I dressed for what I thought success was supposed to look like, aka dripping in designer. But now, I feel like for more than anything, I dress for comfort and I dress for how I want to feel, for the life that I actually live, not the life I think I should be living. And the clothes that I'm keeping are the ones that make me feel like myself, the soft sweaters that don't feel itchy, which, by the way, is very rare for me. The jeans that actually fit my body, not suffocate the living life out of my stomach. The dresses that I reach for because they make me smile, not because of what designer made them. I'm all for keeping a few sentimental pieces, by the way. I know not everyone is, but I think I am. What you hold on to or what you want to hold on to now, maybe in 10 years you'll be ready to let go of. But I think keeping them packed away in storage is better than in your current wardrobe. I think it's better to keep them stored away in somewhat of a memory box, if you do choose to hold on to them, because in a way they are memories. And it's better to keep them stored away than to keep them in your forefront of your mind, reminding you every day of a version of yourself that you're probably no longer. And this process taught me so much about the difference between wanting and needing. And I've come to the realization that there is a place in my closet and in my life for both. It has taught me about the difference between who I think I should be and who I actually am, and about the freedom that comes with letting go. And I think decluttering isn't really about the stuff, for me anyway. It's more about the stories that I was telling myself about this stuff. It's about letting go of the versions of ourselves that we've outgrown. It's about making space for who we're becoming. And I think if you hold on to too much of who you used to be, where is the room to grow? There isn't any. I also learned that this isn't a one-time thing. Our lives change, our bodies change, our priorities change. And I think regular closet audits aren't about being wasteful. They're about staying aligned with who we are. And I thought back in 2021, when I came online and shared my first kind of closet clear out, that truly that was, going to be a one and done kind of thing, and that would be it for me. And I was really wrong, because at this point, I think I've done like 5. And for anyone watching this who's thinking about doing their own closet declutter, or maybe they think they're overdue for one, my advice is try not to beat yourself up and be kind to yourself, and try to be as reflective and also as logical as you can. And try not to judge yourself for the purchases that you've made in the past. Some may disagree with me, but I think a lot of our past mistakes are a part of our journey to figuring out who we are or who we want to be. And I think as well, I've come to realize that nothing in life is perfect. A closet isn't going to be either. I think you can't go in with that mindset, because maybe I'm wrong, but I would go so far as to say that your life isn't perfect either. No one's is. So why do we expect our closets to be? And I think it's really important to ask yourself, if you go through this process, does this reflect who I am now? Does this serve the life that I'm actually living? Do I feel myself when I wear this? This recent closet declutter became so much more than just organizing my clothes. It's become a little bit of a practice of letting go. It's become a physical representation of, I think, a lot of the inner work that I've been trying to do around consumption and around identity and what really matters to me. I'm really curious, what's one item in your closet that you might be holding on to that no longer serves you? Does it have a story? What story is it telling you about who you think you should be versus who you actually are? I'd really love to know in the comments. I love hearing about your own experiences if you're looking to live more intentionally. And I hope that this maybe resonated with you in some way. And if it didn't, feel free to tell me that also. Maybe it sounds all a bit too intense for a closet clear out. But either way, I hope to see you in my next video. And if there's anything you're interested in, I will have my Vestiaire profile linked, or you can email me about specific pieces, whether you saw them in this video or whether you just know that I own them. Feel free to email me with the item in the subject line. My email is always in the description below. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.